Hey, everybody. Welcome to UGASports Live Podcast. My name is Roddy Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dane Young and the Hall of Famer himself, Jim Donnan. It is game week at Georgia Clemson this weekend. We've been waiting 7,000 years for this game to get here. It is finally here. And we're going to talk about it on today's show. We got Coach doing a breakdown. We had Kirby Smart with his press conference yesterday. We got to speak to JT Daniels yesterday. We had Kirk Herbstreit for half an hour. Just want people to know, the rest of the media is getting Kirk Herbstreit for like 15, 20 minutes later in the week. We had it for half an hour on our show yesterday, so tons and tons of game week talk. I got Dane and Coach Donnan here to really break down the game and talk about it. We thank you for tuning in, and I really want to thank our friends here at Classic City Eats. They let me come in and eat all their food, and we really appreciate it. Plus our friends at Athens Ford, Academia Brewing Company, Europie, the pizza joint, and Dead Soxy, our new sponsor. Be sure to get your lucky socks with them. You get 25% off when you use UGASports as your promo code. Guys, before, I know y'all can't be here, and I know you hate it, but I've got the barbecue plate, barbecue pork with the slaw and beans on it. I'm just letting y'all know that I'm eating fine. The folks here, Josh, are taking care of me at Classic City Eats, and a great place to come watch the game when you get a chance. Speaking of the game, we got to speak to Kirby Smart yesterday, and Dane, Coach John. I think Kirby's not going to give away a whole lot, but I thought the most important thing that he said, or most important thing that came out of that press conference with him and all the players, was finding out that John Fitzpatrick, Georgia's tight end, that we hardly ever talk about because everyone wants to talk about Reed Gilbert or Darnell Washington or Brock Bowers. The starter, John Fitzpatrick, is ready to go. Coach, how big is that news?
Yeah, I think it's huge just because Todd Monken's package has a lot of different variations, among which in the running game, the tight end is an integral part of it. Just not only the fact that it's one tight end, but two. We know we've got Bowers, but he hasn't played in the game. Yeah. And, we have some backups there in Seether and Godey that could play. But, realistically, just for any team in the country, I was talking to my son out in Oklahoma, and he was talking about the lack of five-star players in the Big 12 conference. He was talking about, they've got some really good players, but Oklahoma gets one once in a while. But we got three guys that could really help us that are five-star players in the receiving end of things. And Darnell Washington, who Kirby says can still play, so I hope he can. Pickett, we know Pickens isn't going to play unless something miraculous happens. And then Gilbert is still having some issues that he's working out, which we're hope so. But can you imagine having two of those guys or three of them to go with our attack? But wow. now you're playing without them, and you've got I'm
depressed.
a play caller who has to make up. You still play the game, but I don't think it's mission impossible because we've known for sure about Pickens, but the other two, there was hope that we might have them. So now, but getting back to my original thought, when you're trying to package things where you have a motion guy to go with your tight end to seal the backside pursuit, because backside pursuit, which that's something I'll talk about in my breakdown later, and it's going to be imminent in this game because there's no threat of the run with JT Daniels. I mean, when he takes the ball and hands it off, he's either going to hand it off or fake it and throw it. He's not going to run with it. And so the backside is going to be, coming hell-bent for election on us. So we need some things where we can misdirect, where we can bring a tight end, an extra tight end or a guy like Bowers in motion just to get in front of the guy. We used to call him at Missouri and Oklahoma, we call him the Zoom guy, but now we're on Zoom, so I don't know if that's that great. But you had a guy that could go in motion and get in front of the backside pursuit, not have to knock him off. Just make sure you position yourself to protect the edge. And we had a guy in George Shorthose was awesome at doing that. We never got hurt from the backside. So I think that's going to be a big part of the plan here is protect the backside and also help protect in the passing game. But as you mentioned, John is a very solid player catching the ball, but he really is a great blocker. And he, in his defense, he had a kind of a tough injury during the early part of the summer where he tweaked his knee a little bit and it put him behind. And then all of a sudden he got that ready and then he hurt his ankle a little bit. So he should be fresh as far as conditioning because, those guys do a lot more conditioning when they're hurt than they do when they're playing because they got him running and doing all these things on the bicycle and all. So his aerobic exercise and all that, he's going to be ready. But as you mentioned, I think that's huge for our team. And we need something like that. I mean, we've had some tough injuries. I mean, it's been a tough camp, but the good news about it is we're fresh, we're ready to go. And I can't wait. I'm looking forward to Saturday night and we're going to have the game on thanks to Athens Ford and also Budweiser and our new sponsor, the shirt group, which you'll tell us. We're going to have a really good watch along show, even though Roddy's not going to be there. We'll still try to have it and we'll see what we can do. But I guarantee
we're bringing the ringer.
I guarantee you we got Brent Rollins coming in with Dane, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this game. And our fans have had a good preview of it all summer. I'll brag a little bit on our site, the fact that we had Coach Sweeney on. Yesterday we had the number one analyst in the country and Kirk Herbstreit. So we've had people categorize this game and give us an idea about from the other side, the other coach. We've also had the analysts that talked about it. We've had a great guy and Paul Feinbaum who, covers the game. And I'm actually going to be on Feinbaum today to talk a little bit about it at, I think, 4:10 or 4.
Coach.
Yeah, I will. I'm basically going to be on there to talk about UT. I'm going to talk about the three teams, UT, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. They're going to have a round robin to see who finishes last in the league. So we're going to see those three teams and talk about hopefully talk about Clemson and Georgia. But most of the stuff that I'm going to talk about at 11:50 today, I'm not going to talk about to the general public, but I'm going to talk about that to our fans here. So
you got a breakdown coming. Good.
Do you want a stat for Feinbaum? Because I've got a decent one for you.
Yeah, what's the stat?
All right. So based on South Carolina starting quarterback situation that came out today, Oconee County, Georgia has 2 SEC starting quarterbacks. The state of Florida has 1.
Well, that's good. I know Max is going to start against UCLA and now Zeb Nolan. And, I've seen Zeb for a long time and, in high school and went to Iowa State and transferred up to North Dakota State and waited his turn. And then that Lance kid came in there and he had a hard time, but he's got another year eligibility. And I guess they had some injuries, so they're going to go with him. And, he knows what to do and maybe they'll get a win here. We play them in 2 weeks. And another thing that I didn't know for our fans who want to get a scouting report is UAB. I thought the season was starting on Thursday, but UAB actually plays Jacksonville State tomorrow night. And I think we can probably watch that on ESPN or ESPN Plus. So get a scouting report on the Blazers before we play them next week. Did you know that, Roddy?
I did not know that. But of course, I never know anything. So that's far from
I didn't know it, but I
didn't either.
I would have been really mad if Thursday night I was getting ready to scout UAB and they already played on Wednesday. But I'm telling you now, UAB will be better than some of the SEC teams we play. I mean, Bill Clark is a good old fashioned coach that really plays hard ball, and they'll be well prepared. And it's going to be a big deal. It's a big deal for those kids that play at schools in those Conference USA to come into Sanford Stadium and, feel like that they should have been recruited by an SEC team. And they're going to play lights out against us. I mean, it'll be a tough non-conference game and it'll be a physical game. I promise you.
Dane, when we spoke to JT Daniels yesterday, people were asking him how big is this game? It's the biggest game you've played in. And he's like, well, no, I played when I was at USC. We played Texas, in front of, I think he said 104,000 people. And it was quite big. But he said that it's a difference when you come to Georgia and get off the plane and you start heading to Athens. And you see those Power G logo flags everywhere. And it's like, it's just out in California, football's just another thing. Here, it's a way of life. It is the thing, and he's ready for that game. He's excited about it, but he was very kind of laid back. And he said, "Look, if we win this game by 100, but lose after that, it doesn't matter. If we lose this game by 100, win out, win the SEC championship, then it doesn't really matter. No matter what happens come Sunday, we're going to be focused on UAB." And I'm thinking, wow, this guy has got the coach speak down.
Well, I mean, that's what you got to be. You got to sell your players on that where they're not so tight that they say, "Oh, heck, what we're going to do if we don't win this?" But I think it's definitely a premier game and a lot riding on it. That's for sure. And the thing about all of these kids, and I think that's something that we've got to not just take for granted, is they haven't played in front of big crowds in 18 months. I mean, football like we know it has not been played, and with the pageantry and I thought that was really good by Kirby on Friday night, asking our band to come down there and juice them up a little bit, just so the players could feel what it's like to have a game.
Wait, slow down. What happened?
Friday night, they went down to get used to the lights catching the ball and everything, and had a little game type workout where they, pregame warm up and all. But he had the UGA Redcoat band there. He and Josh Brooks had him. Josh Lee had him there to play some of the songs and juice the players up. And I saw a little bit on Twitter where Davis said, "There's nothing like Sanford Stadium on a Saturday night." So I got juiced up about that. But like I said, you just don't take for granted that these guys, how they're going to react, because some of them haven't even been around it. I mean, they've been around the 25,000, but now the other thing that one of our coaches pointed out to me is that Clemson has an unbelievable record in this stadium up there. I think Dane could probably look it up, but they've been playing that ACC championship game up there, and they might have played another game that was a neutral site, but it's something like 7 or 8 in a row where they haven't lost in that stadium. So they're used to it, but that's another excuse we're not going to use. I mean, we're going to get after them anyway, but it's nice to go into a place that you've been around and all that. And there's certainly a lot of Clemson fans up there. I think it'll be pretty evenly distributed though.
Roddy, I hate coach speak as much as anyone, but I actually don't think that JT and then Kirby Smart were giving coach speak when talking about the importance of this game. It feels important because it's a top 5 matchup. It feels important because we all want football. Like, this is just the fever pitch of everything we've gone through to get to this point and be excited about another season. But when it comes and goes, it is a non-conference game, and both teams will still be in the top 10 regardless of what happens in the game. And then all the hopes and dreams are still there for the conference slate and beyond. So is it helpful to win? Absolutely. Is it going to be fun to win? Absolutely. Does it kill anything if one of the teams loses? One will. Then no, everything will be intact. The pursuit of all the championships will still be there. This is a fun season kickoff. It is not a measuring stick. It is not life or death. This is this gets it started.
I disagree just a little bit because yes, everything's still in front of you, but you can't make another mistake. You don't.
Yeah, you can't get there with 2 losses, right?
So, I don't know about that. If Georgia, if it's Clemson a loss, you lose one more early in the regular season, but then you go run the table.
Dane. Come on, Dane, you're too smart to think. Look at all the teams in the country: Ohio State and Oklahoma. You think they're going to lose 2 games?
I think if Georgia wins the SEC championship over Alabama with 2 losses, there's a conversation there.
That's true. That's a good point.
Maybe.
Well, it would be a lot easier if you had the 12 spots in the playoffs there,
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's going to be bad about a loss is the prophets of doom will be out stacked up like club sandwiches. I mean, that's what kills me. What are we going to do next? So, we got to, just for that sake, hopefully, we got some people can find something wrong with anything, that's okay though. But let's get a little bit glass half full here, at least for this game. Hopefully we can get this game, and then we won't have to stand up for it and for our team. I tell you this one point that I really feel like that the fans that can go there are usually going to go and tailgate and get in the game early and just go out. You don't have to go to your seats. Just go to the concourse or go where you can see both teams warming up. And the collection of athletes that you're going to see out on that field, probably you won't see it again like that in your lifetime, maybe 2 or 3 times. Maybe, hey, if you get to go see Georgia and Alabama or, I'm just talking about guys that pass the eyeball test that just wow you. And when you watch the kickers, they're kicking the ball over the light poles, and the extra point and field goal guys are kicking them from the 40-yard line. And just everything about each team just makes you understand how terrific both these teams are athletically. And sometimes you don't get to see all that in the game because, every play's not like that. But just for instance, when they do the pat and go and quarterbacks pat the ball and then the receivers run down, and you see those gazelles running down for Clemson, 6'3", 200 pounds, and you see Arian Smith running down and nobody can throw it far enough for him. Things like that just make unbelievable.
We're going to have a ton of folks from UGA Sports at the Sugar Creek Brewery. Our buddies Mopar Dog and Bulldog over on UGA Sports have put together a fantastic tailgating event. So I don't think there's any more tickets left. They've sold hundreds and hundreds of tickets to this tailgating event over at the Sugar Creek Brewery. There may be a few more. You need to check on UGASports.com to see, but it is going to be one hell of a party up there in Charlotte. It's going to be a blast. You're right, Dane. I think it was smart of Kirby and JT Daniels kind of set the stage. Like, look, this isn't a make or break for the season, although it does limit the number of mistakes you can make after that. But we're getting playoff football on week 1. So I think for me, it's just the excitement is because it's not, and this is not a shot against UAB, but if you were leading with UAB, you'd be excited that Georgia football was coming back. But remember years ago when you have a game 2 or game 3, there's a much bigger game. Everyone was kind of taking the first game for granted, not the situation this year. Everyone's just talking about it. And I love it. I love the excitement. And what a better way to kick off what should be a very, very special year for Georgia regardless. So,
hey, Roddy, I got a question for you. What's the over and under amount of beers that you can have and still go to the game and shoot the game like you need to?
Oh, for me, it's 4.
But if you're going to go there and shoot on the sideline and all, we want you to be able to stand up, okay?
Well, yeah.
You could probably do better with the Bud Light seltzers.
That 5th one, I'm done. It's all blurry. It's not going to happen. For a 7 o'clock game, yeah, we'll be cut there. Hit the tailgate about 3:20. Knock out 4 beers.
We're going to have some people. We're going to have some people up there monitoring you that under plainclothesmen, watching.
I'm excited about this Sugar Creek place. Can't wait to talk to the dog fans over there. I'm also excited about our friends over at Athens Ford who are sponsoring our watch along. So I won't be in the seats next to Coach Don, and we'll have Brent Rollins there, which is a lot better because if I'm trying to figure out odd front, even front, under, over, stuff like that, I need to see the 11 on 11, and I need to have my little chart out trying to figure out stuff like that. Coach sees in a fraction of a second. Brent Rollins already explaining what's going to, what they can run out of these different formations. I can't do any of that stuff. All I do is drink the Bud Light seltzers and bring us in and out of commercials. That's all I contribute to the watch along. But Coach Donnan, Brent, and Dane will be breaking it down, and they will have the watch along show. So what you need to do is have the TV, have the game on your TV, and then on your laptop, your phone, your tablet. Go to our YouTube page, bring up the watch along show with Coach Donnan, watch them as the game is progressing, and watch Coach Donnan call plays or point out stuff that's going to happen because it's so much better than. And this is not a shot against Kirk. Love Kirk Herbstreit. So glad he did our show with us yesterday for 30 minutes. But Coach knows a lot more about this team, and we'll see stuff developing, and we'll point out stuff that needs to happen or needs to stop happening. So be sure to check our watch along. The reason I bring up the watch along is because Athens Ford is a big sponsor for it. So I want our folks, if you enjoy that watch along show and you need a new vehicle, go out to Athens Ford and grab one. If you need service on your vehicle, go to Athens Ford and get it done. I was looking, I brought up their website, and they have the $500 off for students. They have the $500 off for active and retired military personnel. All sorts of deals like that. But there's a 2018 Ford Explorer. If you're in need of another used vehicle specials, I'm telling you, I ain't gonna put it out there because I don't want people to smack me over it. But there's a 2018 Ford Explorer, low mileage with a ridiculous price on it. If you need a vehicle, go get that one. It's grayish, gray black. Jump on it. I'm telling you, I've got a 2016 Ford Explorer, love mine. There's a 2018 over there that's got a ridiculous price on it. You need to go hit it up. And if you're looking for a place to watch the game, swing by our friends at Academy Brewing Company. I was looking on their site, on their Facebook page. Tonight, of course, they have trivia. Thursday, they're having a bike night. So all these motorcycles will be out there. It'll be very cool to watch. And they have live music featuring the Getaway Company. Saturday, on all their big screens, the Georgia Clemson game with all their great beer, all their great food. And then Saturday and Sunday, of course, they have their beer and biscuit brunch. So check out our friends at Academia Brewing Company. Get some great beers while you're out there watching the game. They'll have the watch along that you can see on one of their other screens. So hit them up and watch the game when you're in town. So if you're not going to Charlotte and you want to watch it in Athens, swing by our friends at Academia Brewing Company.
We had a lot of people that would watch on Sundays and the second watching of the game if they were at the game and they wanted to see the telecast, and then put us on, kind of get that synced up for that too. So there's another good way that you can do it. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we will have Coach Donnan's breakdown of Georgia and Clemson. But first, we want to get to some of our listener questions over at the vent at UGASports.com as Roddy shows off a nice platter of food from Classic City Eats.
Not fair.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna combine these questions. King Mario 981 asks, who do you think could be the breakout player of the game? And then JDS Tubby asks, who will be the most important player on each side of the ball? So let's kind of do those together. Breakout player, most important player. Let's go one offense and defense.
Go ahead, Coach.
I just don't. I hate to put the onus on anybody as far as going to be a breakout type thing. I think to be any good in this game, you're going to have to spread the wealth out because each team's very capable of taking something away. But I see a major distribution of the ball around. But I would say Will Shipley for Clemson, the new back, is going to have to come in there and do a good job. He's a freshman. They got some other backs. And then defensively for us, I feel like our safeties are going to have a monumental game here. I feel like both those guys, Seen and Smith, are going to have to really step it up because we don't have near the depth that we need in the secondary. So that would be the guys I would talk about.
For me, I'm going to keep it simple and just say I think for Georgia to win the game, JT Daniels has to be close to perfect. And so the most important player in big games like this is the quarterback. I know that's a cop-out for this conversation, but it's true. If he puts the ball in harm's way, then Georgia's not going to win the game. If he protects it and spreads it around like Coach is saying, Georgia will have a great shot to win.
Let me go back. Kirk Herbstreit said the same thing yesterday. It's like to win this game, you have to have elite quarterback play. It's Coach Donnan, former quarterback, coaches quarterbacks. He knows how important it is. The first time we ever had Coach Donnan on the show, we were talking recruiting, and we asked him, what 3 recruits do you want in this recruiting class? He said, Justin Fields. Used all 3 spots to pick a quarterback. And I think you're right. In this game, that will come down to it. For me, a breakout player, somebody I want to see really kind of light up. I want to see what all the hype is about Brock Bowers. And it's not, I'm always picking on tight ends, and it's not just the newest toy in the arsenal. I'm just thinking that, as much as Georgia ran 12 personnel last year, and the fact that we had people, as Coach mentioned in the beginning, talking about, those 3 5-stars are not going to be able to play. We had people who had already penciled in Darnell Washington and Arik Gilbert on the field at the same time. Neither one of them are there. And again, I mentioned right off the bat, the kind of forgotten guy in all this, John Fitzpatrick. John Fitzpatrick goes out there and does his duty. He's out there blocking. He's catching passes. And JT Daniels said, look, he's underrated as a pass catcher. He can catch. We know he can. We've seen him do it. Give me a breakout, to me, means Jordan Davis is hard to call it's a breakout player because he's already broken out.
You gonna go over the whole roster, or what do you?
I'm just saying, give me the guy.
Holy moly, man!
I'm just trying to put my rationale in there. Give me a guy like Brock Bowers who there's not as much film out there on him. Maybe he attacks him in a way that they're not ready for. Go back to that Scott Frost game, Nebraska saying we weren't prepared for what Illinois did when they switched fronts on us. Well, maybe you get something there where they're not prepared for what Brock Bowers can do.
Shout out to Luke Ford in that game too, by the way. That was good to see him catch a touchdown for Illinois.
Amen, Luke. Hell yeah.
Dog bite you ask if Darnell
One thing about that game that I think is really important that is really left over and scanned over that we're going to see around the country and they're going to talk about is this super senior deal. And that's what they're calling guys that come back for another year. Like Mac Brown said, they have 8 guys coming back and they're all playing that had an extra year. Illinois, Tony Peterson's offensive coordinator, he was the coach for me at Marshall. They had 22 kids come back that are seniors for Brett Bielema. Now, regardless how good they are, I mean, that kind of sets a tone for the rest of the team that you got leadership, you got guys that want to win. They want one more shot at saving the program. And they look like a team that really was, had their own sense of destiny. But 22 extra guys like that on top of your regular team, I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Now I'm trying to think how many Georgia has. I'm thinking Justin Schaefer. Who else?
Wyatt and Justin Schaefer is only 2 I can think of.
Yeah.
But again, two likely starters.
Oh, those are 2 good ones. Those are 2. But, you start adding those up. Like I saw where Georgia State had like 10 coming back in a program like that, a non-power 5, that's a lot of extra guys. I mean, you need people, you need bodies. But
it's funny you say that, Coach. I asked Kirby Smart yesterday in the press conference thing. I said, look, from the uninitiated, we know my limitations on understanding football. There seem to be some similarities between Georgia and Clemson. I look at Georgia's front line, Georgia's defensive fronts, massive bodies, talented players. Clemson's defensive front, massively talented players. He said they're a little bit smaller and more doesn't have quite the girth that Georgia's does. Quarterbacks are new-ish, they're very talented guys, but they don't have a ton of starts for their respective teams. So I said there'd be some similarities. Of course, he's like, no, we're not similar at all. He did say there were some similarities, but he said there's not so much there. But he said, look, and I said, what about the secondaries? Georgia's kind of rebuilding its secondary. Doesn't Clemson have to do the same with Darian Kendrick leaving? He's like, no. This secondary that Clemson has is loaded with guys who have the number of starts they have. He says it's one of the most experienced secondaries I've faced in coaching. And that goes to your point about these super seniors. I'm thinking, okay, Georgia's, Marcus Roseby's going to get after him. Arian Smith's going to get after him. Those guys at Clemson have played a lot. So you get that super senior thing. They also have a lot of starts in their secondary as well.
Yeah, good news and bad news. I mean, they got a lot of guys back, but they gave up 6 touchdown passes their last game. So, I'm not trying to be a smart ass on. I guess I am, but I think that's going to be a real issue in this game is who can
which secondary comes out,
because both fronts are just. I mean, you could get some people from a rest home to pick out that these fronts are going to be really good, but the secondary is going to be a big issue. But we don't want to give away the last of the show. But what we got next here?
Hey, actually, Dane, I know you're about to ask that dog bite question, but going along that same line of what Coach just mentioned, this question came in and kind of matches it really well. Question for Coach. Can Georgia run the ball on Clemson, and will they?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hey, we can run the ball on anybody. I mean, I promise you that's one thing that I will take all the way with this team, with our backs and our line, and now that Fitzpatrick's in there too, we can run it, and we can run it, and they know we're going to run it. We'll run it, but we'll
save that to the end.
But we're going to have to throw it, because they can gang up on the run and stop us some. But we're not we're not the same kind of O-line that we were at the end of the year last year against Cincinnati, where we had guys plugging in and, different guys weren't playing and all that. Hey, our O-line has some issues, but as far as newness, but we can run the rock. We can. I mean, I like our running game over theirs. It's a big advantage.
I agree with that too. Dog bite. You asked, will Darnell Washington play? I know Kirby Smart said that they are healing well, both Washington and Tyke Smith. Don't expect them to play. Do not expect them to be out there based on that injury they had, the recovery time that it takes. And I think it could be a couple of games. We'll see.
You never know. I mean, I saw Oral Roberts over there yesterday. I mean, he was helping them out. No, I didn't go over there, but that's terrible. But seriously, if he's saying they might play, they could. I mean, we've had guys that had miracle recoveries, but I would say based on the type of injury they had, it'd be very difficult to come out there and play. But we got to go with what the coach said. If it's day to day, it's day to day.
It would be miraculous because earlier this week, and remember we're Tuesday, so either yesterday or Sunday, those guys were at practice or to walk through whatever, still in boots, still in crutches. So again, a lot of that's precautionary where you just take some weight off of it and you let it heal up, but I'm not expecting either one to play.
Steve's Gourmet asked,
crutches at practice? I've never seen a player in crutches.
All the sideline to practice in crutches. So.
All right. You got some good sources, man.
Steve's Gourmet asked, over under on trick plays during the game. Will there be more than one?
Yes. I mean, this Clemson alone will run more than one. I mean, and we don't really call them trick plays anymore. We call them special plays. I mean, you're running them because you think it's got an advantage. You're not trying. That's just the way people call them trick plays. But you tell your team, oh, hey, we're going to get to run this maybe one time, and everybody's got to execute. And if we do it right based on the way they line up and everything, it'll work. But it's not something we can do over and over because they'll adjust to it. But we got some special plays, and they got them too. I would say you'd see several of them because you're just not going to hammer and tong these teams like this. You got to have something to give you a little bit of juice once in a while, and players like to practice those special plays too.
It does bring energy to the team and to the fan base when they get to see the creativity at work. In relation to Tyke Smith likely being out, Strange Noah asked, how do we feel about Latavius Breeny's cover skills? I know he's a sound tackler and he proved that last year, but covering Justin Ross in a slot, that could be a tough task.
Hey, the biggest room in the world, room for improvement. This guy's improved unbelievable from his freshman year to this point. Knowledge of assignment. He knows the defense in and out. So that's a big plus too. And he's developed as a cover guy. He's more of a hitter, more of a guy that can play the run, but he's gotten better at playing the pass just by reps and being out there. We also have Anderson, who is a very skilled athlete that can come back there. And I guarantee you one thing, when he gets up there and jolts the guy in the slot to try to redirect him going down the field, with those arms, he can redirect them from being off. I mean, he looks like he's off sides when he hits them. His arms are that far from the guy. And so I feel good about Anderson in there too, some more for the run, but he can also disrupt the guy pretty well. And he, guy ran around 4.5, so he's got speed to do it too. So he's kind of an anomaly that you just don't see a big old guy like that back there at the star position. But he's just good enough that he can play and give you some reps back there. But as he mentioned in his interviews, he's going to be a guy that got his hand down and rushing the passer. That's where he's going to make his mark.
Another question on star position that I'll send to you, Roddy. Was Tyke Smith considered to be the clear favorite to start at star before his injury, or was it going to be a battle right up to the first game and even during the season? That's from Billy Zane.
From what I was told, Latavius Brittany had won that or was the clear leader for that spot. That's nothing against Tyke Smith, but he's just not quite as big as Latavius. He comes from a zone scheme, not so much a man-to-man. And he was learning it. He's what Georgia wanted to do there. But I think Latavius Brinney had gotten that. And I think how the defense goes is when you look at guys like, I don't want to say journeyman, but guys who've been around a long time, like Amir Speed, Latavius Brinney, Chris Smith. Those guys have been around long. Devontae Wyatt, those upperclassmen, the leaders, not quite your super seniors, but just the guys who said, look, this is our time. Adam Anderson, this is a guy who's, actually, remember, he was committed to Georgia. They decommitted, they've committed back. This is a guy who's been dying to get his chance up there, but he's behind some pretty good players. I think a lot of these guys are going to be like that Illinois team is like, look, this is our time. We're here to make some noise and show that we are ready, to be considered elite. So I think Latavius Brinney, was at safety for so long. Now he's up at star, and he's like, look, this could be my future. So I hope he does well. I mean, he's a great kid. But I think that no matter what happened to Tyke Smith, that was probably going to be your starter out there at star, regardless. Now, maybe
here's the point on that. That's hearsay. That's what you get a lot of good stuff. But here's the thing about the kid. He came in here and he hurt his thumb right off the bat. And he was in a cast for when they were he was doing the walkthroughs and all that, but he was learning it. But he brings in a wealth of experience and time played against the pass, more zone, as you mentioned. But he was behind him at starting out, that's for sure. But at the same time, once he got to know everything, I think it'd have been a real tight fit there. But the overriding thing is you go in there with two guys that both are very capable and you feel good about, and now you don't have one of them. So that hurts us as much as him being a starter. And, because who's to know how he would have played once he got in the game in the SEC, but not having him at all hurts you so much because behind him now we're going to have to play Anderson in there or play that other safety, Jackson. What's his name? The
Jackson.
What's his first name?
Ryan.
No, the guy that's Dan Jackson, and he's very capable too. But let's call it like it is. I mean, here's what we had last year. We had Mark Webb, who could be a senior this year. We had behind him at star, we had Stevenson, who could be a junior this year. Right. And behind them, we had Brini. So we lose those two guys. We bring in a backup or a guy to compete in Smith. So, that's a difficult situation there with our defense, particularly when you're playing those guys that Coach Sweeney has with their unbelievable athletes, big old tall kids. I'm talking about. They look like a basketball team out there. They're 6'3", angular guys. And then the guy that's going to be the one they got to defend is Ross. He's probably going to play in a slot. So how are we going to do with him? What are we going to do against him? And Kirk Herbstreit mentioned yesterday about that the guy's coming off a neck injury. So how much are they going to let him play and let him? I think it'd be real good if they really wouldn't let him play this week. I probably should wait and hold him out to the third or fourth game. That'd be really nice.
You're so kind and obviously worried about his future health, Coach. I could tell.
Yeah. Nate Doggy Dog 401 trying to make a little money, I think. He's asking about the over and under for the game is currently 51.5. Or would you lean on that?
First half?
Yeah. It's going to be more.
I think, based on the big play potential of both teams, even though we got really good defenses up front, I just think the ball in the air is going to be – there's going to be a lot of jump balls in this game. Going to be a lot of them. So, but you never know how much teams are going to stop themselves either. I would tend to think it'd be a fairly high-scoring game.
Ghost of Crowell, which is just such a fantastic name on the vet, ask, are there any freshmen to look out for on special teams?
Freshmen on special teams, sure. Munden is going to be out there. Bowers be out there. I think those two for sure. I guess Lad McConkey's still considered a freshman since he was redshirted. He didn't play enough. He could be a guy we'd use to return punts if something happened to Kieras. That's an issue that worries me. A guy's coming off a knee injury. You had those three guys that aren't playing, and you got all three of our receivers out of the four have a knee injury. Burton got hurt in the spring. Kieras had surgery this summer, and Blaylock probably not going to play. So, there's a lot of question marks there.
Does Todd Monken believe in Georgia's beloved halfback toss? And what ways can Georgia scheme to get players on the perimeter? That's from Lake Norman Dog.
Absolutely. He believes in it. Maybe not the old turn and toss it like 38 and 39 where you reverse pivot, snap the ball, seat it, put it in your third pouch there, your hands right around your stomach, and throw them a dead pitch running to the right. Maybe not that. We do the take it and flip it out there and run the kind of the quick pitch but we like the pitch. We've got good guys to run it. Cook came out of the womb running that play. He can run it. Milton can run it. All of them can, but we've got a lot of good ways to do it. And we got some good fakes off of it. We faked it against Florida and had Fitzpatrick running with blinker lights on, and unfortunately he dropped it. But we got a good toss package. The old I formation toss where you turn and pitch it to the tailback, we don't use that, but we do the toss of where we just take it instead of running out there and hand it to him on the zone. We do it. The other thing, we got some variations in the line blocking that we didn't have under Chaney or Pittman. We pull some guards, we block down some. We mix it up between the inside and outside zone. We got a lot of different variations.
This is a little. Would you ask about a fullback, Roddy?
Coach, does Georgia have anybody that besides an offensive lineman or defensive lineman turned the goal line package? Does anybody actually could step in as a fullback if you needed one? If you're like, hey, I think we could run that old system.
Yeah, we got Carter back there. 88 out the gate. He can do it. He lined up back there and he actually caught a touchdown pass. And I think Broderick Jones, Truss, all are capable. If we had an injury situation of, putting on another jersey and coming in, be an extra guy just to block on the edge, because you don't want to just say, hey, well, we got all these tight ends hurt. We can't run this package. You've got to block the edge against Clemson some way. They're just too thick inside. You're just not going to maul them and knock them off the ball. You got to get to the edge. And so we got that capability.
Amarius Mims needs redemption from the second half of the spring game when he didn't make it into the end zone on the catch.
Yeah, we could probably use that too. That's true.
This is from LN Holland 1, and this is more of kind of a coach psychology thing. Do you think that the injuries to the big name players, Pickens, Washington, Tyke Smith, even Gilbert situation, what effect does that have on the mentality of the team?
Good question.
I say none, just because we haven't had any of them really. Washington got hurt early. Pickens has been out the whole time. Tyke Smith hadn't been part of the team till he started practicing later this summer. Our guys know what we got. And we've talked about this, ad nauseum about the competition we have in practice, which, I don't go over there as much as I used to, but I know that really helps you prepare for the games. Kirby brought that from Alabama with the practice schedule we use and the way we work and rework plays when they don't work and go over them and film them and do all that, just like everybody does. But we do a great job of preparation, and our kids are sold on the fact that everything that they do in practice is going to make the games easy for them. And I'm sure Clemson does the same, but our mentality is next man up, and, we got to go take care of business.
We'll sneak in two more quick ones, and then we'll get to Coach Donnan's preview that he's been teasing for 2 weeks. I've been excited about this.
Don't give me 15 minutes, man. I can't do that. I couldn't do 15 minutes on ESPN.
Paul Feinbaum's going to keep you on for 10 or 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, but he has questions in between. I'm going to have to give you a report here.
Pepper you with some questions.
All right. We'll push it for another 10 minutes. But 12:55, you're on the clock, sir.
Yeah, you did 12:53, but maybe.
It'll stretch a little bit. What if we have follow-ups? And what we did?
Well, anything I say is going to be immaterial because the great Rodmeister is going to have to take over and say what he thinks. So
I got to say the opposite, just to keep you grounded.
yeah.
Well, I'll sneak these two in here, and then we'll decide where we want to go from there before the preview. In an opening matchup like Georgia has against Clemson, I think we can all agree that communication on defense is key. Do you see Nakobe Dean as the guy that steps up and fills the role as the on-field coach, so to speak, for Georgia's defense? That is from Gary Tommy on the vent.
Hey, that's a rhetorical question. I mean, hey, for sure, he's the guy. I mean, he's the leader of the defense. He gets the signal. He calls the defense. He's very adept at that. He knows what's happening in the front and the back end. He's a 3-down linebacker. He can play every, you don't have to take him out when it's a passing situation. And whether he is actual coach on the field, I mean, that's hard for me to really make it a comment because I don't know what they're asking him to do. But you do have to have guys that can make checks because there's things that happen in football that you can't just program your calls that are going to be exactly right. So you might be anticipating something and then they come out in something else. So you need to be able to make a check to, hey, we're going to get out of this. Or you see the defense sometime when the offense is looking to the sideline and they're coming up there and the quarterback walks up and says something to the line. Well, then the defense will check their call because the offensive coach in the press box saw him line up a way that he liked. So we check out of it. And the way we do that is through the calls from our linebacker. And then, of course, Smith on the back end is a good quarterback back there helping with the secondary.
Roddy, I'll give this one to you. Can you talk to the folks at your pie?
One second.
Go ahead.
Coach, if Lewis Seen sees something and Nakobe sees something different, what happens there? Does one override the other? I mean, do they talk it out? I mean, what is the between your middle linebacker and your safety? How much?
You don't have a secondary guy that's making any adjustments to the front, and you usually don't have any linebacker making any adjustment to the secondary. So
okay,
because of what they've got to zone in on those 7 guys that are potential run or pass, where the other guys are looking at the wide receivers and all that. So the secondary basically usually doesn't check many coverages. I mean, a blitz is a blitz is a blitz. Man is man is man. That's the way we used to say it. But but you do in a game like this, you're gonna play some chess. I mean, you got a master coach in Kirby Smart that's working with Lanning, and he's got Muschamp helping him, which I think is a big help because he's played Clemson the last 5 years or 4 years, so he knows them. So you've got to anticipate what the guy's calling, but at the same time, you've got to be able to adjust, and you got to be ready for tempo. You got to get your calls in there fast, and you got to be ready to go. So it's going to be a chess game, that's for sure, as far as what's Clemson going to try to do against us, and what are we going to try to do against them. And gets down to players. Play calls are important, but adjustments are good. But it really, I think Smith and Seen would do something a little bit different than what Nakobe would tell them to do, as far as changing something. But you do see sometimes the linebacker will hold up his hand, or he'll make some kind of signal or whatever. And if he does that, then the back end sees it too, and you check off to that too. But we don't check near as much on defense as the offense does. I mean, that's just normal because you got enough things to worry about stopping the offense without checking,
Lump Dog on the vent says, Roddy, can you talk to the folks at Your Pie and Drew French, those fine folks, to make sure that the peach and prosciutto pizza is a year-round thing as opposed to just the summer? I'm sure that they can get peaches imported from somewhere.
I'm going to get my notes here on this game plan.
I specifically asked him when he first came out with that. I said, it's a year-round thing. Is this new, like your Ishka or your Southern Heat? He's like, no, we can only get the peaches they like to use, and it's specific peaches, for their sweetness during this limited time. So that's something they do not have year-round. So they're not going to put some crappy peaches on there in the middle of December when you can't get them. Even though you get some, I guess, hothouse or greenhouse peaches, but they're just not the same. So that's a good thing I'm glad he mentioned it, because a lot of our folks who are going to be watching this game who are not going to Charlotte, there is a Your Pie next to you or within driving distance. And they now have those 14-inch pizzas that you can order online, and go ahead and order it today for Saturday and get your points for Tuesday. You get your double points on Tuesday. So go ahead and go into the app, put your thing, and it says delivery. I want it, or pick up this Saturday, 5:30, 5 o'clock. Go get your pizza and Your Pie. Hit them up. I also want to mention our friends at Dead Soxy. They have the red and black socks that you need to check out. Of course, they also have the red, white, blue socks. They have the no-shows. They have these seamless ones. They have these socks that are made from this yarn. It's made from bamboo. It's super soft. It's fantastic. But we've had a lot of people who, when we first mentioned Dead Soxy as one of our sponsors, they went and bought the Georgia pack of socks, the stripes, the polka dots, all the fun ones like that. And they've been getting them, and they've been raving about them. So it's not just our word for it. I'm not just saying it because they sponsor our show. It's because we tried them, we liked them, and we said, yes, you can sponsor our show. We don't just take a check from anybody, although you think we do, but we don't. And there have been some people we've turned down because we just didn't believe in them. So I'm telling you personally, I've tried the stuff at Dead Soxy. You need to try it out. Go to deadsoxy.com, use promo code UGASports and get 25% off. And if you say you don't need them, but you want to gift them to somebody, you want to give somebody dress socks, you want to gift them the patterns, the soft ones, the no-shows, the Georgia, the red and black ones, go ahead and use that UGA Sports code and hit it up. And while I'm talking about food, I'm going to mention our friends here at Classic City Eats now have their rubs and seasonings. But usually when I come out here, I try to get Coach Dunn a meal of their fried catfish, which is their number one seller, until it was replaced by this new number one seller, their Philly steak. That is their new number one seller. He ran out of meat one time, then doubled the order, ran out of meat again, quadrupled the order, and almost ran out again this past weekend. That's how many of these Philly cheesesteaks they're selling, because they're shaved prime rib. It's a phenomenal sandwich. So when you get a chance and you want to watch another place, if you're in Oconee County, you want to watch the game, they got a ton of TVs in here. They got a game room behind me. They've got the golf simulator, all sorts of things here at Classic City Eats. So this would be a good place to come watch the game. And I know Josh will be in his office doing the watch along. So they're watching us on the watch along.
Hey, I'm just telling you right now that's the best kept secret in Athens right now. I guess it's in Watkinsville. Is everything, the family atmosphere out there, the good food. You can't beat it. I mean, same thing with Your Pie. I mean, academia. I mean, we got the right places backing us.
We do.
And Athens Ford. I hadn't had the socks yet, but
I'll bring you some. They're good.
Well,
All right, let's set the table for this. Do you want to do it, Roddy, or am I doing it?
No, go ahead. You're a better hype man.
So for a couple of weeks now, the Hall of Fame head coach, Jim Donnan, former Georgia Bulldogs head coach, said he will give us the real story on what you need to know about Georgia versus Clemson in Charlotte Saturday night. And here we are, Coach. It is your time.
Okay. Well, the main thing about this is I hope everybody just kick their feet back and don't get too excited one way or the other. But I'm going to tell you a few things that I think are really, really big in this game. First thing is quarterback center exchange. Both teams are going to play with the guy that has played at center, unless for some reason our center with the broken hand, Erickson, can play, which I don't think. He's been playing with the other hand. But Van Pran's been doing a good job, and it looks to me like, listening to Kirby, that they're going to go with Van Pran and then Salyer on the edge at tackle. But who knows? That's still up in the air. But Clemson, I've read their site that they've been talking about. They've had trouble with the quarterback center exchange, and that's normal when you go back from center, underneath the center, back to the backfield, and you're just not used to getting the ball from them. So let's watch and see if anybody has any snaps. We saw Hill over the last couple of years where we had some snapping problems, and the ball went, you'd lose 10 yards or you'd lose the ball. Hopefully that happens to Clemson some, but watch the center play for both teams. It just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? It's routine. You got to make it.
Take it for granted.
We used to have this guy that coached our O-line at Missouri. Man, we're going to practice the quarterback center exchange until your nose bleeds. And I got so tired of hearing him, but we did practice it a lot. But he would put a nose guard on the guy, make him snap and all. And it should be easy to do. So let's watch the center play. The next thing is let's watch the safety play for both teams, because I think we got a wash at corner. I think both teams got corners that can cover, but they're going to have some jump balls, with both sides, and let both teams play some man. So how are the safeties going to help ball in the air? Can we get another guy over there when we're playing too deep to get the guy? If we're playing man and the quarterback breaks the line of scrimmage, can our safeties come up and hold him down to where it's not just a run for 15, 20 yards? Certainly JT can do that if it's wide open. And, he's shown if they want to play two men. So let's watch the centers down the middle and both safeties on each team and see what happens there. The next thing is in the kicking game. Can somebody get a break? Both of these guys can kick the ball out of the end zone. Punters are good. Can somebody get some hidden yardage in the kicking game? And I'm not just talking about this as an old coach here. I'm talking about in a game of this magnitude.
Yeah.
Can you pick up a few yards on a return, or can you find some way to block an extra point or field goal? Here's something you got to get ready for, fans. If this game goes to overtime, we don't have the overtime like we used to. The second overtime, you've got to go for 2. And the third overtime, they put the ball on the 3 and you go for 2. You don't try to get it. You know what I mean? So the game's going to be over fast after the second overtime, more than likely. So both teams, I'm sure, have been working a lot more on 2-point plays and 2-point defenses, because after 2 periods are over, you're just going to have the 2-point play. And if both teams make it, then you're going to do it's kind of like sudden death in golf if somebody makes a putt. So blocking a kick can maybe make the difference and keep you from going to overtime. So we're watching for the hidden yardage. All right. The next thing that I really feel like is going to be huge in this game is which quarterback can take care of the ball the best. I feel like both these guys are going to make a lot of throws down the field. They're going to hit, but who's going to make that mistake that really hurts your team? Is it going to, we can't afford 2 or 3 interceptions any more than they can too. But in a game like this, turnovers are golden. You got to get them. So which quarterback's going to protect the ball the best? The next thing is which team can stop the edge? Who can stop the edge runs? Because both teams are so good up the middle. Jordan Davis licking his chops going against that new center. They're same thing with Miles Murphy. Those guys, Breezy, they're really good. But edge there, Anderson and Smith, are you going to be able to take on the blockers? You're fast, elite pass rushers and all, but can you take on the blockers and stop the run? And can Clemson do that with their edge guys? Because they're built to rush the passer. That's what you do in the ACC. You rush the passer. So which team blocks the edge the best and which team defends the edge the best is going to be really critical in this game. And the other thing is the case of decision-making by the coaches, the clutch decisions as you make them in the game, how they affect the game. Both of these coaches, I think Kirby sometimes gets too much blame for some things. and not enough credit. But at the same time, you're going against a team that has never been out of the top 5 in the last 6 years. They're 77-9. That's what their record is since 2015. So they know how to win. So you got to sometimes, maybe when you think about going for it, you got to go for it. Or sometimes you're thinking about, well, we better not go. We better punt. You better punt. So I'm saying, how's this game going to be coaching wise? I've got 2 really elite coaches. And the last thing is poise. Take care of your position. Don't get some stupid ass penalty in a game like this. They're going to jack around and talk to each other. A lot of these kids recruited by each other, each school, and there's going to be some jawing, but show some poise. Don't take a swing. And in the end, this game will probably be lost more than it's won. I really think that one of these teams is going to make enough mistakes that the other takes advantage of it. I'm not going to predict the score right now. I'm going to do that on the watch along show before that, but that's about all I got here. I got nothing left.
Elvis has left the building, folks. No, Coach, I think you nailed it with the last thing you said. I mean, it was all good stuff, and it's all fantastic. I appreciate you breaking it down like that. But I think your point about a team losing this game more so than winning it, and we see that more often than we want to acknowledge that this team did something wrong. And there's going to be chirping. We reported midsummer, about the 7-on-7s that JT Daniels and Darian Kendrick would kind of chirp back and forth to each other. One makes a big play, he teases the other guy, and they go back and forth. You're going to see that same thing with some Clemson guys teasing Darian Kendrick, or they know that Lewis's a big hitter. Look what happened in the Florida game. And just that kind of chirping back and forth. I mean, I know that some of Georgia's offensive linemen are going to be hearing it from Miles Murphy, Briscoe, and guys like that. I mean, and Breezy. I think Juwan Briscoe talking about guys that need to poise. I go back to some of those situations where it's such a big hype game that a comment here or reaction to a comment, a guy pushes you when he gets up off the pile and he holds his hand on you a little too long, you get up and push him down. Now all of a sudden it's 15 yards and you got your first warning and you just lost a big pickup. I don't think we can stress the poise thing enough, Coach. I think you nailed it with that one. It may not be an exciting factor, but it is a huge factor.
Yeah, I was talking to Kirby earlier this summer, and we were talking about somebody came out with this talking about Tennessee's record against Alabama, Florida, and Georgia. Well, they've lost that last 14 to Alabama. They're 1-15 against Florida, and they're 2-7 against us. And then he said, yeah, and that Hail Mary, because we had a stupid ass guy run out on the field on an extra point. I mean, on a touchdown, and we got 15-yard penalty on the kickoff. That's what we're talking about. I mean, some of these guys, you don't know how they're going to react, but we work on it hard, and we do a good job coaching it. But this is a big time game. I mean, you don't get many games like this. I mean, I know when I played, we got to play Penn State and we played Michigan State when they were number 1. I mean, I remember that the rest of my life. They're going to the movie the next week. They had the highlights of our game. I threw a touchdown pass. Here's Jim Donnan from NC State throwing a 46-yard touchdown pass against number 1 Michigan State. I remember that a lot better than us losing 24-10. But the point is, you remember all these things the rest of your life. It's a great game. And I really envy the fans that are going to be there. And I hope, Roddy, that you do the job and get a lot of good pictures, or otherwise we're not sending you out anymore.
I'll give you one last factor that it's not great analysis, but in games like this, where there's 2 immensely talented teams, both of which can go win the national championship this season, it takes a little luck. That football's a weird shape and it bounces all kinds of funky ways. It takes a little luck, whether it's that or the referee saw something or didn't see something. There's going to be some luck involved, and one of the teams is going to benefit from it and probably score points off of it.
True.
That's football. It happens.
I think you're right.
Pick 6, prayer from Jordan Hare. I mean, come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jasper Sanks. I mean, come on.
Yep. You're right 100%.
Hey, I hope everybody will listen on Thursday, Saturday, and also we'll have our what's the name of the show? I can't remember it. But
yeah, we're doing Around the League. We'll have that published on Thursday. That's our look at the SEC as a whole with Coach Donnan, myself, and Brent Rollins. Really excited to do that show again this year. That'll be weekly. Again, we'll have that published on Thursday.
And how did they see the one that we had yesterday? Explain that.
If you want to check out our interview with Kirk Herbstreit on this YouTube feed, if you're watching, go check it out there. We also have it on UGASports.com, and you can scroll back through some of the interviews that we've done within the past year, whether it be Paul Feinbaum or Houston Nutt, Bruce Feldman. It goes on, including Dabo Swinney, Mac Brown. I mean, you're talking the elite voices, coaches, broadcasters, the foundation and stalwarts of college football have been here with us on UGAsports.com. And you need to go check that out. And it's worth your time. I thought the stuff that Kirk Herbstreit said just about college football and the path forward with all the changes that are happening, I really thought there was some wisdom in what he was saying and how we need to be careful to preserve what we love while also it's being grown. And that takes leadership at the top. And he pretty much called people out for that, which I thought was strong words from Kirk.
And one of the things that just for the fans, I mean, a guy like Kirk, I mean, I felt like it was really not fair to him just to get him on there and break down the Georgia Clemson. Everybody, I wanted to hear about what he thought about SEC West and the East and, you know, NIL and all that, because you'll be able to hear him talk about the game all throughout the game and things like that. So don't give us too much heat about that. We're just trying to
worry about stuff like that. It was a fantastic show. I loved it, and he touched on a lot of great stuff. And we'll have a lot of great stuff for you this coming Saturday. Again, that Thursday show where you guys talk about all the teams in the conference. I love it. And shout out to Lane's Barbecue for sponsoring it, and Connor Grading and Landscaping for also sponsoring that show. So that's
all right. Look forward to a big W here. Go Dogs.
Yes, sir. We'll talk to you folks next week. We will see you next Tuesday.